Alice in Wonderland was first published in 1865 by the British author and mathematician Charles Dodgson under the pseudonym Lewis Carroll. It concerns a little girl named Alice who enters a rabbit hole to find herself in a fantasy world populated by various bizarre creatures, including playing cards brought to life in distorted human form. Its sequel, Alice Through the Looking Glass, was published in 1871, but set 6 months after the first tale. In the story, Alice sees yet another strange world, this time reflected in a large mirror that hangs above a fireplace. She clambers up onto the mantelpiece to peer in, finding she can enter this fantastical domain by passing through the mirror. Like Wonderland, the world she enters is inhabited by strange beings, but this time the chief protagonists are personified as chess pieces. The book's title character is generally thought to have been inspired by Alice Liddell, the daughter of Henry Liddell, Dean of Oxford Christ Church College, where Carroll lectured on mathematics. However, although he dedicated the book to Alice Liddell and probably named his character after her, Carroll always denied that she had been his inspiration. Nevertheless, Carroll often implied that he had based his character on a real little girl, although he kept her identity a secret he took to his grave. Carroll originally came up with the idea for both books in tandem in 1852, while he was working as in-house tutor to the children of the wealthy landowner Sir Charles Wood at their home at Hinkleton Hall in the county of Yorkshire. Not only was this before Alice Liddell was born, but in the drawings he made for the works, which he insisted be copied by the illustrator John Tenniel, Alice looks nothing like the little girl. Moreover, she was 12 when the first novel appeared, while Alice's age is revealed in the book to be 7.5. If the character of Alice was inspired by a real child, then it may, it has been suggested, have been one of the girls Carroll was teaching at Hinkleton Hall in 1852. The children of Sir Charles Wood, but none of his 3 daughters were 7 years old. 2 were toddlers and 1 was 12. But there was a 7-year-old girl staying with the Woods during the summer Carroll was at Hinkleton Hall. None other than Mary Heath, later to become the Lady of Biddulph Grange and the head of the mysterious Order of Meoniah. She had been on a summer-long visit with her father, Robert Heath, a businessman who was there to explore coal mining possibilities on the Wood estate. Lewis Carroll included various conundrums in his works and alludes to the girl he dedicated the book to in a poem at the end of the Looking Glass story. The first letters of each line spell out her name, Alice Pleasance Liddell. If Mary Heath had been his inspiration, perhaps he included an oblique reference to her too, and indeed he might. Correspondence concerning the Victorian Heath family refer to Mary Heath using both her given names, Mary Ann. In the Wonderland story, when Alice follows the White Rabbit into the mysterious world, he keeps calling her by this very name, Mary Ann. And it is never explained why. No character of this name actually appears in the tale. But our mystery surrounds the mirror. Tradition holds that the magic looking glass was inspired by a real mirror that hung in Alice Liddell's grandparents' home at Charlton Kings in the county of Gloucestershire. But the one there bears no resemblance to the one based on Carroll's original drawings. Its frame was elaborately decorated on all sides with carvings of interwoven branches, foliage and various animals, whereas the gold-framed looking glass is relatively plain. In Carol's story, the looking glass hangs over a fireplace in the drawing room in the house where Alice resides. And there was a mirror in the drawing room at Henkleton Hall where the story appears to have been conceived. Inventories of the time show that, along with other furnishings, the mirror was taken by Wood's daughter Emily to a new home she and her husband, Hugo Meynell Ingram, had built after they married in 1863, Hoar Cross Hall in East Staffordshire. In 1989, the hall was bought by businessman Steve Joynes, who acquired some of the original furnishings that had been in the building during the 19th century, including the mirror, which was refurbished and now hangs over the fireplace in the library. Hoar Cross Hall is now a luxury hotel and spa resort, and the library, largely unchanged from Emily Wood's time, now serves as a lounge. This room is said to be haunted. Guests and members of staff have all claimed to have seen what they describe as the ghost of a little girl reflected in the mirror. Witnesses say that she appears to be around 7 or 8 years old and is dressed in Victorian clothes. Astonishingly, she has long fair hair and wears a blue frock with a white pinafore, remarkably like Alice from the Looking Glass story. Jodie and I have taken statements from many people who claim to have seen the child. This account concerns a young man who worked behind the bar in the Long Gallery outside the library. Late one night, as his shift was coming to an end, he entered the library to clear away glasses. Looking to the mirror, he saw the reflection of a little girl with long blonde hair standing in the corner at the other end of the room. He assumed she was in fancy dress, as she was wearing what he described as an old-fashioned blue dress. Wondering why she was up so late and on her own when the bars and dining areas had closed, he turned to ask if she was okay, but she was gone. Thinking she had left quickly through a secret door in the bookshelves in that corner of the library leading to the dining room, he walked over to follow, only to find the dining room was empty. Assuming she had run out the dining room exit to the Long Gallery, he turned around and re-entered the library, and again he saw her in the mirror, now standing in the doorway where he had been when he first saw her. She was staring directly at him with a mischievous smile. When he turned to look at the doorway, she had again disappeared. Thinking she was playing games, he trotted through the library and out into the Long Gallery, but she was nowhere to be seen. It was only the next day, when he learned that no children had been staying here, that he realized that he may have seen the ghost. But the apparition not only appears in the mirror, she has been seen on the grand staircase, on the landing, and along an upstairs corridor. Often footsteps and the sound of a child laughing can be heard at night when nothing is seen. And the most haunted room in the building is directly above the library. Coincidentally perhaps, it is called the Lady Alice Suite. Apart from the ghostly girl appearing to visitors who stay here, heavy knocking on the door when no one is outside, and a sound like laboured breathing, when the room is unoccupied, the reception receives phone calls from the empty Lady Alice Suite, only to hear static on the other end of the line. And the ghost in the mirror may even have appeared on film. When this photograph was taken last year, it seems to have captured the transparent image of a little blonde girl reflected in the looking glass. It could be just a coincidental arrangement of background features, a phenomenon known as pareidolia. Nevertheless, I find it strange that some people can see her clearly, whereas others can see nothing unusual at all. But what has all this to do with Mary Heath? Jodie and my research has revealed that the young Mary Heath was accredited with strange supernatural gifts. Was it this that inspired Lewis Carroll to write about a little girl who could cross into another world by entering a mirror? Did this unusual Victorian child somehow duplicate herself as some kind of thought form in the looking glass that now hangs in Hoar Hall? As you will see when our book is published next year, the adult Mary Heath is said to have accomplished far more bizarre feats than that.